The sensor array blinked red for the third time in 10 minutes. Ryla tapped her console with growing frustration, certain the equipment had finally given up after years of monitoring empty space. The outer drift rarely showed anything except cosmic dust and the occasional wandering asteroid. Her shift supervisor would laugh if she reported another false reading. Except this time the signature remained constant. Energy levels that shouldn't exist in this region of the galaxy pulsed steadily on her screen, creating patterns that matched nothing in the Coalition database. Ryla ran the scan again, then a third time, her throat tightening as the results stayed identical. "This can't be right," she whispered to the empty monitoring station. The protocols were clear. Unknown energy signatures required immediate reporting to Coalition Command, regardless of location or probability. Ryla's fingers hesitated over the transmission key. She had filed false reports before, wasting resources on sensor glitches and cosmic anomalies. Another mistake would cost her the position she had worked 5 years to achieve. But the readings refused to disappear. If anything, they grew stronger. She opened the emergency channel, monitoring Station 7 to Coalition Command, requesting verification of possible contact in Sector 97 Delta. The response came faster than expected. "Command receiving. Transmit full data package." Within an hour, the investigation frigate Steady Horizon received new orders. Captain Oren read the briefing twice, then called his senior staff to the navigation deck. His crew represented 4 different species, each with decades of experience patrolling Coalition space. None of them had ever seen readings like the ones Ryla had transmitted. "Could be a natural phenomenon," Pax suggested, studying the energy patterns. The tactical officer had served in 3 border conflicts and trusted his instincts. "Maybe a stellar remnant we haven't cataloged." "Stellar remnants don't hold position in empty space," Dren countered. The communications officer pulled up a star chart showing the outer drift. "Nothing exists in that region. No planets, no stations, no shipping routes. Whatever this is chose to be there." Oren made his decision quickly. "Set course for the coordinates. Full sensor sweep as we approach. Weapons ready but not armed. We investigate, we don't provoke." The journey took 6 hours. As the Steady Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel, every screen on the bridge showed the same impossible image. A vessel hung motionless against the stars, so large it initially registered as a small moon. Angular armor plating covered its hull in overlapping sections, each panel thick enough to withstand sustained weapons fire. Weapon arrays dotted its surface in configurations the Coalition had never encountered. "Size estimate?" Oren asked quietly. Ryla's voice shook slightly. "Twice the length of our largest battlecruiser. Mass readings are off the scale. Captain, that ship could carry enough firepower to level a planetary defense grid." Identification. Nothing in any database. The design doesn't match known architecture from any Coalition species. Hull composition includes materials we use, but arranged in ways that shouldn't work. It's like someone took our technology and rebuilt it from scratch. Pax studied the tactical display with growing unease. Those weapon placements provide complete coverage. No blind spots, no weak points in the firing solution. Whoever designed this understood combat at a level that took Coalition forces centuries to develop. The vessel remained dark and silent. No running lights, no communications, no sign of active systems. Yet the energy signature Ryla had detected continued pulsing from somewhere deep within its hull, suggesting the ship was far from dead. "Attempt standard hailing protocols," Oren ordered. Dren broadcast greetings in 17 languages, using every known communication frequency. The massive warship offered no response. Minutes stretched into an uncomfortable silence as the crew waited, tension building with each passing second. "Try again," Oren said. "Broader spectrum this time. Include mathematical sequences. If there's anyone aboard, they need to know we're not hostile. Before Dren could transmit, every console on the Steady Horizons bridge flared to life simultaneously. The dark vessel erupted with light as power surged through its systems. Weapon arrays rotated smoothly, targeting systems locking onto the Coalition frigate with terrifying precision. The energy signature Ryla had detected multiplied 100-fold as the ship's main reactor came fully online. "They're targeting us," Pax shouted. "Multiple weapon locks. They have firing solutions on our engines, bridge, and life support." "Shields up, evasive pattern." Orin gripped his command chair as the Steady Horizons defensive systems activated. "Do not return fire. Transmit peaceful intentions on all frequencies." The warship's weapons tracked their movements perfectly, adjusting aim as the Coalition vessel maneuvered. Whoever controlled those systems possessed reaction times that seemed impossible. Then, without warning, a transmission cut through every communication channel simultaneously. The language was unfamiliar, harsh consonants mixed with flowing vowels that created sounds Coalition species rarely produced. Dren's translation software analyzed the transmission, comparing it against every known dialect and linguistic pattern. The results appeared on screen, and the communications officer felt his blood turn cold. "Captain, the translation matrix has identified the language. It's called English. Origin point, planet Earth Sol system." Orin stared at the display. "Earth, that primitive world barely achieved chemical rockets last time we surveyed them. They're decades away from faster-than-light capability. The software confidence rating is 98%. That transmission is definitely human in origin." On the main view screen, the massive warship continued holding position, weapons locked, waiting. Its silence felt more threatening than any declaration of war. Whatever humans had become in the years since the last Coalition survey, they had clearly learned to build vessels capable of challenging galactic military power. And they had been waiting in the darkness of deep space, hidden and ready for someone to find them. Coalition Command transmitted new orders within minutes of receiving the Steady Horizons report. Orin read them with a sense of disbelief that refused to fade. Earth was supposed to be a backwater planet populated by species barely capable of orbital mechanics. The last survey had classified them as pre-contact, worth monitoring but decades away from galactic relevance. The warship hovering before them suggested that assessment had been catastrophically wrong. "Maintain position," Orin instructed his crew. "Keep broadcasting peaceful intentions. If they wanted us destroyed, we'd already be debris." Pax disagreed. "We should withdraw and let Command send a proper battle group. That ship outguns us by every measure." "Which is exactly why we don't run. Running implies fear. Fear implies weakness. We establish dialogue, learn their intentions, and report back. Those are our orders." The human transmission repeated 3 more times before falling silent. Dren worked to refine the translation, pulling linguistic patterns from the Coalition's limited files on Earth. Most of the data came from intercepted radio broadcasts, primitive television signals that had leaked into space over the past century. Humans talked endlessly, their communications filled with everything from scientific discussions to entertainment programming. None of it suggested they possessed technology capable of building vessels like the one currently targeting the Steady Horizon. "I have a cleaner translation," Dren announced. "The message says, 'Identify yourself and state your purpose in this sector.'" "Simple and direct," Orin observed. "Respond in their language. Tell them we're a Coalition patrol vessel investigating an unknown energy signature. We come in peace and request dialogue." Dren transmitted the message, his translation software converting Coalition standard into English. The wait felt eternal. Then the view screen activated, displaying the interior of the human warship's command center. A human male sat in a central chair, surrounded by complex control systems that hummed with quiet efficiency. He wore a dark uniform with minimal decoration, his expression calm and measuring. When he spoke, his voice carried the absolute confidence of someone holding every tactical advantage. Coalition Vessel Steady Horizon. I am Commander Reed of the Earth Defense Force ship Retribution. You are currently within our patrol zone. State your intentions clearly. Oren stepped forward where the human could see him. Commander Reed, I am Captain Oren. We detected your vessel's energy signature and came to investigate. We meant no intrusion. Our records indicate Earth hasn't achieved faster-than-light capability. Your ship's presence here is unexpected. Reed's expression didn't change. Your records are outdated. Earth has operated FTL vessels for 3 years. The Retribution is one of 18 deep space reconnaissance and combat ships currently deployed across this region of the galaxy. The number hit like a physical blow. 18 vessels of this size and capability, hidden throughout Coalition space, undetected until now. Pax pulled up strategic maps, trying to imagine what such a fleet could accomplish if deployed with hostile intent. The answer was nothing the Coalition wanted to face. 18 ships, Oren repeated carefully. Operating for 3 years without making contact. Why remain hidden? We weren't hiding, Captain. We were learning. Earth discovered the existence of galactic civilization 15 years ago when our radio telescopes intercepted Coalition communications. We listened, observed, and studied. What we learned convinced us that announcing our presence prematurely would be unwise. Ryla pulled up Earth's file on her console, scanning the limited information available. Captain, our last survey was conducted 18 years ago. We classified them as non-threatening and scheduled the next survey for 20 years later. If they've been monitoring our communications for 15 years, they've had access to everything from tactical data to diplomatic exchanges. Reed continued as if hearing her assessment. We monitored your conflicts, your political structures, your military deployments. We learned which species value peaceful cooperation and which ones view new civilizations as resources to exploit. We discovered that 3 separate coalition species had already filed claims to establish resource extraction operations on Earth once we developed space travel capability. Oren felt the deck shift beneath him, though the ship remained perfectly stable. You accessed classified military intelligence. We accessed what you broadcast. Your encryption protocols are sophisticated but not unbreakable, particularly when you have 15 years to analyze them. Earth made a decision at the highest levels. We would not enter galactic civilization as prey. We would arrive prepared to defend ourselves. The human's words carried no threat, only statement of fact. Pax studied the tactical display again, noting how the Retribution's weapons remained locked on critical systems. Those weapons have been tracking us since we arrived. You're prepared to fire. Yes, the Retribution is always prepared to fire, but preparation is not the same as intention. Reed leaned forward slightly. Captain Oren, we don't want conflict with the Coalition. We want recognition as a sovereign power with the capability to defend our interests. Your presence here gives us an opportunity to begin formal dialogue. Dialogue that begins with weapons locked on a peaceful vessel. Your vessel arrived in our patrol zone unannounced. We responded appropriately to an unknown contact. Would the Coalition have done differently? Oren had no answer because Reed was absolutely correct. Standard protocol required defensive posture when encountering unknown vessels. The humans were following military doctrine that matched Coalition procedures almost perfectly. I'll relay your request for dialogue to command, Oren said finally. They'll want to verify your claims about these 18 vessels. Reed smiled, an expression that somehow made him look more dangerous. Verification won't be necessary. We're transmitting the locations of 6 sister ships currently within communication range. You'll find them exactly where we say they are. As for the others, they'll make themselves known when appropriate." The screen went dark as the transmission ended. Moments later, Dren confirmed that 6 new energy signatures had appeared on long-range sensors, each matching the Retribution's configuration. They hung in space across Coalition territory like chess pieces positioned for a game that had already begun. "They've been watching us for years," Pax said quietly, "learning everything about us while we thought they were still using chemical rockets." Orin opened a direct channel to Coalition Command. The report would shake the foundations of galactic politics. Earth had arrived, and they had arrived ready for war. Unity Point Station orbited a neutral world chosen specifically for diplomatic meetings between species with conflicting interests. Its massive conference chambers had hosted peace treaties, trade agreements, and border negotiations for over 2 centuries. Never before had it convened an emergency session with such speed or urgency. Representatives from 14 coalition species gathered in the central hall, their conversations creating a chaotic mix of languages and concerns. News of the human warships had spread through official channels and unofficial gossip networks simultaneously. Fear and anger competed with curiosity and calculation, as species leaders tried to understand what this development meant for galactic stability. Arbiter Finn called the session to order, his authority recognized by all present. "We convene to address the matter of Earth and its military capabilities. Commander Reed and Captain Walsh of the Earth Defense Force have agreed to attend and answer questions." The humans entered without ceremony. Reed wore the same dark uniform from the viewscreen transmission. Captain Walsh stood beside him, a woman whose gray hair and steady gaze suggested decades of military service. They took positions at the center of the hall, surrounded by alien species whose reactions ranged from fascination to barely concealed hostility. "Let us begin with fundamental questions," Finn said. "Earth was surveyed 18 years ago and classified as pre-contact. How did you develop faster-than-light capability decades ahead of predicted timeline?" Walsh answered, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "We didn't develop it alone. We intercepted your communications 15 years ago and studied your technology through the data you broadcast. Physics equations, engineering specifications, materials science, all transmitted across open channels. We learned from you, then improved upon what we learned." A representative from the Tanix Collective stood abruptly. "You stole our technology and militarized it without permission. This is an act of aggression against the entire coalition." "We studied publicly broadcast information," Reed corrected. "Information you sent into space without encryption, without protection, apparently assuming no one was listening. As for militarization, we built what we determined necessary for survival." "Survival?" The Tanix representative's voice dripped with contempt. "You faced no threats. Earth exists in an isolated region with no hostile neighbors." Walsh touched a control panel, projecting documents onto the chamber's central display. "These are 3 separate resource exploitation proposals filed with coalition administrative offices. All 3 identify Earth as a target for colonial resource extraction. All 3 propose waiting until humans develop basic spaceflight before establishing control. The proposals include detailed plans for subjugating our species and claiming our planet." Silence crashed through the chamber. Several species representatives shifted uncomfortably as their own government seals appeared on the displayed documents. Finn studied the information with growing concern, recognizing authentication codes that confirmed these were genuine coalition filings. "How did you access sealed administrative records?" Finn asked. "We've been monitoring your networks for 15 years, Reed stated simply. "Your data security assumes member species won't look for vulnerabilities. We did look. We found them. And we learned that the galaxy isn't peaceful, it's predatory with rules that favor the strong." A different representative, this one from the Kelser Federation, spoke carefully. Even accepting these concerns, building 18 warships seems excessive for defensive purposes. Does it? Walsh brought up new images showing coalition military deployments. You maintain 347 battlecruisers, over 1,000 support vessels, and garrison forces on 92 worlds. Earth built 18 ships to defend one planet and our interests in surrounding space. By any mathematical comparison, we're undermanned and under-equipped. Your ships are more advanced than ours, the Kelser representative countered. Each one could challenge multiple coalition vessels. Yes, they could. We designed them that way because we understood we'd be outnumbered. Quality compensating for quantity is basic military strategy. Are we being criticized for building effective defenses? Pax, observing from the visitor gallery alongside Oren and the Steady Horizon crew, appreciated the tactical brilliance of the human position. They had framed everything as defensive response to legitimate threats, making coalition members confront their own aggressive policies. Finn attempted to regain control of the session. The coalition's concern is not your defensive posture but your methods. You developed military capabilities in secret, positioned vessels throughout our territory without notification, and accessed classified information. These actions suggest hostile intent regardless of your stated purposes. Walsh's expression hardened. Arbiter Finn, Earth's experience with colonization and subjugation spans thousands of years of our own history. We know exactly what happens to civilizations that appear weak when discovered by stronger powers. We chose to appear strong instead. If that decision offends coalition sensibilities, we're willing to accept your disapproval while maintaining our defensive capabilities. Are you threatening the coalition? The Taniks representative was on his feet again. No, we're establishing boundaries. Earth will not be colonized. We will not submit to external authority. We will not allow our planet to become another species resource extraction zone. These positions are non-negotiable. Reed paused, letting his words sink in. However, we're not seeking conflict. We're seeking recognition as a sovereign power with the right to defend our interests. Oren watched the proceedings with growing understanding. The humans weren't trying to conquer anyone. They were forcing the coalition to acknowledge them as equals rather than primitives awaiting integration. The warships were leverage, not weapons of aggression. The coalition must discuss these matters internally, Finn announced. Earth will receive our decision within 48 hours. Walsh shook her head. Arbiter, with respect, we're not waiting for permission. Earth is informing you of reality. We exist. We're armed. We're sovereign. Your decision is whether to acknowledge these facts peacefully or attempt to suppress them through force. Choose wisely, because the 6 ships we revealed are the ones we wanted you to find. The others remain positioned where they can protect Earth's interests. The session erupted into chaos as representatives shouted questions and protests. Reed and Walsh stood calmly at the center, unmoved by the turmoil they had created. Ryla leaned close to Oren. They've been planning this for years. Every word, every revelation, calculated for maximum impact. Yes, Oren agreed. And now the coalition has to decide if it's willing to go to war with a species that's been preparing for exactly that possibility since the moment they learned we existed. The coalition fractured within hours of the Unity Point session. Species representatives returned to their governments with conflicting reports and recommendations. Some advocated immediate diplomatic recognition of Earth's sovereignty. Others demanded military action before the human presence grew stronger. The disagreement cut across traditional political alliances, creating chaos in administrative centers across coalition space. Oren received permission to conduct informal discussions with Commander Reed while official debates continued. They met in a neutral conference room aboard Unity Point, without recording devices or official observers. 2 military officers trying to find common ground while their governments postured. Your timing was deliberate, Oren said. You could have remained hidden longer. Why reveal yourselves now? Reed poured water from a container, the simple gesture somehow making him seem more human and less like a tactical calculation. Our deep space monitoring detected something concerning. We needed the Coalition's attention before circumstances made dialogue impossible. What did you detect? I'll share that information when appropriate. First, I need you to understand something about Earth. Reed settled into his chair with the ease of someone prepared for a long conversation. Our planet has harsh environments compared to most Coalition worlds. Extreme temperatures, violent weather patterns, dangerous predators. Humans evolved in conditions that killed the weak and rewarded adaptability. We learned to survive by being prepared for the worst possible scenario. The Coalition includes species from challenging environments, Oren pointed out. True, but those species joined an existing galactic civilization. They had guidance, support, gradual integration. Earth discovered the galaxy was already occupied by powers who saw us as resources. We had no allies, no sponsors, no time to develop through natural progression. So we prepared for war while hopping for peace. The honesty in Reed's voice struck Oren as genuine. You really don't want conflict. We want survival. If that requires conflict, we'll fight. If it requires cooperation, we'll cooperate. We're flexible in methods but absolute in purpose. Meanwhile, aboard the Retribution, Ryla worked alongside human technical staff at Captain Walsh's invitation. The opportunity to study their systems up close was too valuable to refuse, even if Coalition Command viewed it with suspicion. She quickly discovered that human technology wasn't more advanced than Coalition equipment, just applied differently. You use redundancy in everything, Ryla observed, studying the ship's power distribution network. Multiple backup systems for every critical function. The human technician, a young man named Harris, nodded. We assume things will break at the worst possible moment. Systems fail, equipment malfunctions, damage happens. Our designs account for worst-case scenarios in every situation. It makes your ships heavier and more expensive to build. It also makes them harder to disable in combat. You can destroy individual systems, but you can't cripple the whole vessel easily. We sacrifice efficiency for reliability. Ryla examined weapons configurations next, noting how human targeting systems operated. Your fire control is aggressive. You calculate kill shots, not disabling strikes. Harris's expression sobered. Earth studied your military conflicts for 15 years. We noticed that Coalition forces often aim to disable rather than destroy. It's more humane, but it also extends battles and creates opportunities for enemies to rally. Human doctrine assumes if we're forced to fight, we finish fights quickly and decisively. The cultural differences were profound. Coalition species had developed military traditions over thousands of years of gradual evolution and contact with other civilizations. Humans had compressed that development into 15 years of desperate preparation, creating something that looked familiar but functioned according to different principles. Back at Unity Point, aggressive Coalition factions began mobilizing fleets. 3 separate species deployed battle groups toward Sol System, Earth's home territory. The deployments violated standard protocols requiring Coalition Council approval, but the species involved argued they were responding to imminent threats. Walsh learned of the fleet movements through human intelligence networks that continued monitoring Coalition communications. She immediately contacted Oren, knowing he maintained connections to moderate factions. Captain, your people are making a terrible mistake. 3 battle groups are heading toward Earth. If they enter our home system, we will interpret it as an act of war. Oren felt cold certainty settle over him. Can you stop them without destroying them? That depends on their actions. The Retribution and her sister ships can disable Coalition vessels, but only if your people don't force escalation. If they fire first, we respond with maximum effectiveness. I'll try to get the order rescinded. But Captain Walsh, you need to understand how this looks from the Coalition perspective. You revealed military capabilities we didn't know existed, positioned vessels throughout our territory, and delivered ultimatums. Some species view you as an existential threat. Walsh's frustration was evident even across the communication link. We're not their threat. We're trying to warn them about the actual danger heading this way, but they're too busy arguing about territorial sovereignty to listen. Before Orin could respond, alarms blared across Unity Point. The three breakaway battle groups had encountered human vessels near established Coalition patrol routes. Standoffs were developing in three separate locations as commanders on both sides awaited orders. Pax burst into Orin's quarters without announcing himself. "You need to see this." One of the battle groups opened fire. They targeted a human ship that was monitoring Coalition shipping lanes. The tactical feed showed weapons fire lighting up space as Coalition vessels engaged a human warship. The human ship, smaller than the Retribution but clearly built to similar specifications, absorbed the initial barrage without sustaining critical damage. Then it returned fire with precision that seemed impossible. Coalition shields collapsed under sustained assault. Weapons arrays exploded. Engine sections went dark. Within 90 seconds, 3 Coalition battlecruisers hung dead in space, crews intact but vessels completely disabled. The human ship broadcast a message on all Coalition frequencies. "We responded to aggression with minimum necessary force. All Coalition personnel are unharmed. We could have destroyed you. We chose not to. Consider carefully before forcing us to make different choices." Walsh appeared on every screen at Unity Point simultaneously. "The Coalition has 48 hours to make a decision. Recognize Earth as a sovereign power, or discover what 18 human warships can accomplish when defending their home. Choose peace. We're begging you to choose peace." The screen went dark, leaving Coalition representatives staring at undeniable proof of human military superiority and restraint combined in equal measure. The disabled Coalition vessels drifted through space while rescue ships scrambled to reach them. Crews remained unharmed but shaken, forced to confront the reality that human warships could have annihilated them effortlessly. Instead, the human ship had methodically stripped away offensive capabilities while leaving life support and crew quarters untouched. Coalition command faced a crisis unlike any in its history. The unauthorized attack had failed catastrophically, demonstrating both human military superiority and restraint. Species leaders who had advocated aggression now scrambled to distance themselves from the disaster. Those who had urged diplomacy pressed their advantage, demanding immediate recognition of Earth's sovereignty. Arbiter Finn convened an emergency session with new urgency. The humans had proven their point without spilling a single drop of Coalition blood. Continuing hostilities would only result in casualties the Coalition couldn't afford. Orin received a priority message from Commander Reed requesting a private meeting. They met in the same conference room, but the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Reed looked tired, the strain of maintaining combat readiness while advocating for peace clearly taking its toll. "Why didn't you destroy those ships?" Orin asked directly. "You had every justification." "Because we're not monsters, Captain. We're people trying to survive in a galaxy that views newcomers as prey. Killing Coalition crews wouldn't make Earth safer. It would make us enemies forever." Reed rubbed his eyes. "Every human vessel commander has orders to use minimum force necessary. We want to be feared enough to discourage aggression, but not hated enough to unite the galaxy against us." "You're walking a very narrow line." "We know, it's the only line we have." Ryla continued her work aboard the Retribution, gaining deeper insight into human thinking with each passing hour. Harris showed her combat simulations the crew ran regularly, scenarios that assumed overwhelming enemy numbers and superior positioning. "You practice losing?" Ryla asked, confused by simulations where human forces faced impossible odds. "We practice surviving when everything goes wrong, when enemies are stronger, when reinforcements can't arrive, when retreat isn't possible. We train for the worst so that anything better feels manageable." Harris pulled up a particularly brutal simulation. This one assumes the Retribution faces 5 battlecruisers simultaneously while protecting a civilian transport. "That's suicide." "It's Tuesday. We ran this scenario last week. The goal isn't to win cleanly. The goal is to keep the transport alive long enough for it to escape, even if it costs us the ship." The philosophy was simultaneously disturbing and impressive. Coalition forces train to achieve victory with minimal losses. Humans train to accomplish objectives regardless of cost to themselves. The difference explained why 18 human ships could challenge hundreds of coalition vessels with credible threat. Back on Unity Point, Walsh prepared for what she hoped would be the final negotiating session. She carried data files that contained information she had been reluctant to share, knowing they would change everything. The coalition representatives assembled with new attitudes, aggressive posturing, replaced by cautious calculation. The demonstration of human capabilities had clarified strategic realities. War with Earth would be devastatingly expensive, even if the coalition ultimately prevailed through numerical superiority. "Earth is prepared to offer full cooperation with coalition security interests," Walsh began without preamble. "We will share intelligence, coordinate on mutual defense, and recognize coalition authority in established territories. In exchange, we require 3 things: recognition of Earth's sovereignty, territorial rights in our home system and immediate space, and a seat on the Coalition Council with full voting privileges." The Tannics representative, notably subdued since the failed attack, spoke carefully. "These terms are acceptable in principle, but the Council requires assurance that Earth won't use its military capabilities for territorial expansion. We have no interest in your worlds. We want security for our own." Walsh activated her data files, projecting new information onto the central display. "Which brings me to the real reason we revealed ourselves when we did." The images showed deep space scans from human monitoring stations positioned far beyond coalition borders. Massive energy signatures clustered in regions thought to be empty. Vessel configurations unlike anything in coalition or human databases. Movement patterns suggesting coordinated fleet operations. "We detected this fleet 6 months ago," Walsh continued. "Their designated unknown contact 1 pending identification. Current projections show them reaching coalition border space in approximately 5 months. Their numbers exceed 3,000 vessels, all substantially larger than coalition battlecruisers." Silence consumed the chamber as representatives absorbed the information. Finn studied the data with growing horror, recognizing the scale of the threat. "This is why you built warships," Finn said quietly. "You knew they were coming." "We suspected something was out there. Our deep space probes detected debris fields and abandoned stations in regions the Coalition hasn't explored. Evidence of battles, of civilizations that encountered something powerful and lost. We built the Retribution and her sisters to defend against whatever destroyed those other species." Reed stepped forward, adding context. "Earth's military development wasn't aimed at the Coalition. You were never our target. You were our practice scenario. We studied your tactics, your capabilities, your response patterns because we needed to understand how galactic warfare operates before facing the real threat." Pax understood immediately. "You've been using us as a training simulation. Every encounter, every negotiation, you were testing doctrines and strategies." "Yes, and learning that the Coalition forces are unprepared for this kind of enemy. Your ships are designed for policing actions and border disputes between peer powers. These unknowns represent something different, something that doesn't negotiate or seek compromise. Walsh brought up tactical comparisons. Coalition doctrine emphasizes minimal casualties and proportional response. Your weapons are designed to disable, not destroy. Your shields prioritize crew protection over offensive capability. Against enemies who fight like you, these choices make sense. Against enemies who fight like us, who accept casualties as necessary costs and prioritize mission completion over survival, you're at a severe disadvantage. You're saying the Coalition can't defeat this unknown fleet, Finn stated. We're saying the Coalition can't defeat them alone, Walsh corrected. But Earth and the Coalition together might have a chance. Our ships provide heavy assault capabilities and aggressive tactics. Your ships provide numbers and established supply networks. Combined operations could create a defense that neither of us achieves separately. The chamber erupted with questions and protests, but underlying the chaos was a new understanding. Earth hadn't come to conquer the Coalition. They had come to save it. Coalition long-range monitoring stations confirmed the human data within 12 hours. The unknown fleet existed, its trajectory unmistakable, its intentions unclear but almost certainly hostile. Species that had spent the previous week arguing about Earth's military buildup now faced an enemy that made human capabilities look modest by comparison. Emergency defense committees formed across Coalition space. Military strategists who had viewed human ships as threats began studying them as potential allies. The shift in perspective happened quickly, driven by mathematical reality. Coalition forces alone couldn't stop 3,000 hostile vessels. Coalition forces augmented by 18 human warships had marginally better odds. Oren found himself appointed as primary liaison to Earth forces, his experience with the Retribution making him the logical choice. He stood on the bridge of the steady horizon, now attached to a rapidly assembling task force, watching as human and Coalition vessels coordinated movements for the first time. Strange how quickly enemies become allies when facing annihilation, Pax observed. We were never enemies, Oren replied. We were strangers who misunderstood each other's intentions. Now we understand and we need each other. The Retribution took position at the center of the defensive formation, her weapons and sensors providing capabilities the Coalition vessels lacked. 18 human warships spread across the fleet, each one paired with Coalition battle groups to maximize tactical effectiveness. The humans contributed firepower and aggressive tactics. The Coalition contributed numbers and logistical support. Commander Reed transferred to the steady horizon temporarily, working directly with Coalition tactical officers to develop combined battle plans. The cultural differences between human and Coalition military thinking created friction, but also unexpected advantages. Your forces spread out to minimize casualties if ships are destroyed, Reed explained to a group of Coalition officers. Our forces cluster to concentrate firepower and provide mutual support. Both approaches have merit. We can use yours for ranged engagement and ours for close combat scenarios. Ryla worked with human technicians to integrate sensor systems, creating a unified detection network that combined Coalition range with human analytical software. The hybrid system proved more effective than either species could achieve independently. We're learning from each other faster than I expected, Ryla told Harris during a brief rest period. Your paranoid redundancy is teaching us to build more resilient systems. Our established protocols are teaching you coordination at scale. Harris smiled. Humans have always learned quickly when survival depends on it. This situation definitely qualifies. The unknown fleet continued its steady approach, now close enough for detailed scans. The vessels used propulsion systems based on principles neither Coalition nor human scientists fully understood. Their hulls incorporated materials that seemed to shift and adapt to sensor sweeps. Communication attempts received no response. Captain Walsh addressed the combined fleet from the Retribution's command center, her message broadcast to every vessel in the defensive formation. All ships, this is Captain Walsh. We're about to engage an enemy we don't understand against odds we don't like. Coalition forces, you've spent centuries building a civilization based on law and cooperation. Earth forces, we've spent years preparing for exactly this moment. Together, we're going to show these unknowns that this galaxy is defended. The unknown fleet entered weapons range 3 hours later. They attacked without warning, without communication, without any indication they viewed coalition or human attempts at dialogue as relevant. Their weapons struck with devastating efficiency, targeting the largest vessels first. Coalition shields collapsed under sustained fire. Human armor held longer but eventually succumbed to overwhelming assault. The defensive formation absorbed terrible damage in the opening minutes, losing 6 coalition battlecruisers and suffering critical hits on multiple other vessels. Then the combined fleet responded, and the unknowns discovered that preparation meets numbers creates formidable defense. Human warships fired with precision that bordered on prescient, targeting weak points the coalition sensors identified. Coalition vessels used their superior numbers to overwhelm individual unknown ships with concentrated fire from multiple angles. The tactics humans had practiced against coalition forces in simulation translated perfectly to actual combat. Oren watched tactical displays update in real time as the battle developed. They're adapting to our tactics. Every ship we destroy teaches them how we fight. Then we teach them painful lessons, Reed replied calmly, coordinating fire missions across multiple battle groups. Target their command vessels, force them to reorganize, keep them reactive instead of proactive. The battle raged for hours, neither side gaining decisive advantage. Unknown vessels demonstrated sophisticated tactics and powerful weapons, but they faced an enemy they hadn't anticipated. 2 species with completely different fighting philosophies working in seamless coordination. Coalition forces provided the strategic patience and logistical depth that kept the fleet supplied and reinforced. Human forces provided the aggressive offense and willingness to accept casualties that broke unknown formations. Together, they created a military force that exceeded the sum of its parts. As the unknown fleet began withdrawing, having failed to break through the defensive line, Walsh opened communications with Arbiter Finn. "They'll be back," she said simply. "This was reconnaissance in force, testing our capabilities. Next time they'll come prepared for what they learned here." "Will we be ready?" Finn asked. "That depends on whether the Coalition and Earth continue working together. Separately, we lose. Together, we have a chance." Walsh paused. "Arbiter, Earth didn't build the Retribution to conquer neighbors. We built her to defend against nightmares. Today we learned the galaxy shares our nightmares. Maybe that's the foundation for real alliance." Finn looked at casualty reports showing losses from both coalition and human forces. They had bled together, fought together, survived together. The political debates about Earth's sovereignty seemed trivial now. "The Coalition Council will vote on Earth's membership tonight," Finn said. "I suspect the outcome is no longer in question." Oren stood beside Reed on the Steady Horizons bridge, watching human and coalition vessels move in coordinated patterns as they secured the battlefield and rescued survivors. Former strangers now functioned as integrated units, united by shared purpose and mutual respect earned through fire. "Your people prepared for the worst," Oren said. "Turns out the worst was already coming." Reed nodded slowly. "We learned one lesson above all others. If you want peace, prepare for war. Now the galaxy knows that lesson too, and maybe together we'll be ready when they return." The combined fleet held formation as stars wheeled overhead, human and alien standing watch together against the darkness, and whatever threats it might contain.